Hey VC, it's Mazzy's Whack-A-Mole number 25. And we're going to continue with 1969 as a little introduction, as a reminder to my ongoing contest that I announced this past weekend that goes to the end of the month, actually till when Labor Day weekend's finished. You can submit. I think I've gotten 3 so far, and thank you for that. And you can go to that video and look at the rules and see all the questions, prizes, details. Anyway, I just got finished making my own playlist based on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Quentin Tarantino film, because I realized I probably have all but 4 or 5 of the songs that are on the soundtrack. Obviously, I don't have the radio air checks, but that kind of makes it. It's that kind of thing, like American Graffiti soundtrack way back in the day. So it's going to be a whack-a-mole, but I'm going to do a little 1969 little update thing because 50 years, a lot went on in 1969. Watch my 1969 video, or just read the history books, right? But on my video, I showcase a bunch of albums from '69, not definitive, but a lot of them. And I showcase 5 movies that to me really epitomize that year with the whole anti-hero thing in Hollywood. But, mid-year this week, this is right now we're in August 2019, where I'm making this video. And there was a lot of optimism because of the moon landing in July of that year and Woodstock. Even though the Woodstock thing happened, a lot of us young people around the world didn't really get the gist of it until the following year when the movie and soundtrack came out. But what I want to mention before I do my whack-a-mole is continue on my personal journey through 1969 in high school. And I usually hung out with a group of friends that I played in bands with, that I was involved, sort of my Jewish friends. There was a whole Jewish organization. The following year, 1970, I went with my confirmation class to Israel. And there was a cultural thing. It wasn't so religious, really, but it was really cultural. And I had my buddies were kind of, not all of them, but a lot of them were in that sort of group. But in high school, there was some other kids that I knew. I played soccer and I ran track. And I had long hair then, so I could play what I call the hippie sports. If you played football, basketball, which I wasn't good at anyway, or what's the other one? Baseball. In 1969, in high school, even though it was a thing, you didn't have long hair. But I played soccer, ran track. I could wear a bandana or something. But anyway, there was, the hippie. You know how high school has all the little benches, the jock bench, the hippie bench. Of course, the hippies didn't have a bench. They were out in the smoking pits, or the smokers, or different. But there was a group of hippies that I kind of knew pretty well and I liked, but I never hung out with them outside of school. But they invited me in December of 1969, and I didn't have my driver's license, to go to a free concert with the Rolling Stones and the Grateful Dead and Jefferson Airplane. That was going to be, originally it was going to be in Golden Gate Park, and there was an issue there with permits. And then, and the 49ers were playing that weekend. In those days, they played at Kezar Stadium, which was in Golden Gate Park, so they thought it'd be a mess. But the Jefferson Airplane and I think it was Jorma Kakkonen mainly was pushing for a free concert in the park. It wanted to have a little bit of an answer to Woodstock, but also get the biggest band in the world, aside from the Beatles, to play in San Francisco. And so Golden Gate Park didn't happen. And then it got shifted, or they considered a place called the Sears Point Raceway, which is this auto racing venue up on the way to the wine country, on the way to Napa. And there was some issue there with permits or bonds or insurance or something. So finally, it was at Altamont Pass, which was, I don't know, it's about an hour out of San Francisco, kind of way hell out there. It's sort of desolate area at the time. Now the freeway kind of runs through that to go to I-5. You cut across from the East Bay there to go to I-5 if you're driving from San Francisco to Los Angeles. Long story before whack-a-mole, but anyway, I went to the Altamont concert we all know what happened there. And I didn't know while I was there of the killing, but it was sort of a bad scene. I wasn't really a druggie in those days, and I was never a druggie, but I wasn't even smoking pot yet. And I remember liking the Jefferson Airplane because I always loved them, but there was some scene going on. I was way back. Loved Santana. I liked the Airplane, but there was something going on with the microphones that someone was beating up Marty Ballin. I vaguely remember that. And then I loved the Flying Burrito Brothers were great, and I didn't really know much about them except I knew they were sort of a Birds offshoot. The bummer thing was my buddies and I were really disappointed because the Dead, who were supposed to play, didn't play, and I didn't know why until much later. And then obviously we all know what happened there with the Stones. They came on late at night because I think, as I heard later, Charlie Watts showed up late in a helicopter or something, so the Stones went on into the evening. And great show, but as we know, with the killing and the Hells Angels and that whole thing, which you can watch plenty of documentaries and read. There's a great book came out about 3 years ago by San Francisco music writer Joel Sullivan about the Altamont show. Kind of really ended the whole 60s hippie cultural thing, and obviously with the Manson murders, which is actually 50 years exactly this past weekend. It's quite a year, the highs and the lows. And Once Time in Hollywood is not really about what you think it's about. I saw it 3 times. And really the first 2/3 or the first half of the movie, there's no story, there's no plot whatsoever. It's really a kind of a look at these 2 young actors, actor and the stuntman. But every time I see it now, I get more into it. But the soundtrack's fabulous. And Altamont, the concert, obviously never had a box set or a celebrated anniversary like Woodstock. In fact, the closest thing that I was thinking about to a soundtrack is this. The film Gimme Shelter really documents a part of the whole initial thing of the Altamont concert. This is not the Altamont concert, but this is the 1969 Rolling Stones tour, which I saw. I didn't see this one. I saw, what did I see? Maybe this is the one in Oakland? I'm blanking on my name, but I'm blanking out on which ones I saw. But this was recorded at Madison Square Gardens, and was it November? So this is about basically a week or 2 before Altamont. Anyway, we've gone 8 minutes without Whack-A-Mole. So if you stayed this long, Whack-A-Mole, I pick 5 albums, random albums. I showcase them. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for the subscribers. I'm up to halfway between 500 and 600. And I'd love you to enter the contest. Check out the rules and the prizes and the details there. And then post on that page that you've entered to make sure that I discover it. Anyway, picking 5. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mazzy's Whack-A-Mole, number 25, 5 LPs. Elvis Costello, my original import of this year's model on Radar Records, which is, I believe it's Radar, F-Beat, part of Stiff maybe, am I wrong about that? Elvis Costello's second album with Pump It Up. Yep, Beat UK pressing. What a great, powerful record this was. No Action, this year's Girl, The Beat, Pump It Up, Little Triggers, You Belong to Me, Lipstick Vogue, oh God, I Don't Want to Go to Chelsea. This is probably my favorite Elvis Costello album. The first one was great because it came out of nowhere, this year's model. But I'd say this is my favorite. And when it came out, there was different versions of this cover shot of Elvis Costello with the Hasselblad medium format camera. different positions of this photograph. This year's model, Elvis Costello. Number one. We're kind of keeping in the family a little bit on Stiff Records. So same period, a little bit, more or less. I love this record. This is Lena Lovitch on Stiff Records. I did a whole video on Stiff Records a couple months ago. So if you're interested in that whole UK label thing, you can seek it out here on my channel. And you probably know Lena Lovitch from her song, I think her only sort of semi-hit that crossed over in this country, that got some radio play on a lot of radio stations, or some radio stations, that were adventurous, is New Toy. New Toy, Whenever Mazzy sings, you should take a shot. This has Bird Song, which is a really great song. This is a little more refined album, as I recall. I gotta listen to this again. But I remember liking this, more melodic than the first one. Although Too Tender to Touch, I think, is on the first one, which is great. But this is when Stiff, this is a domestic, when Stiff hooked up with Columbia Epic Records. And one of my favorite labels, again, I love that label, right? And remember their motto, this is true, if it ain't stiff, it ain't worth a fuck. Stiff Records from the 1970s. Okay, now we got a Morrissey 12-inch single from Sire Records. This was given to me by a friend of mine who worked for Warner Brothers, WEA distributors at the time. Morrissey Suede Head. I pretty much collect all the Smiths. I don't have all the Morrissey, but I have almost all the Smiths picture sleeves, 12-inch. In fact, again, look at I did an earlier video of Smith's 12 inches because I love their cover artists. So this is Hairdresser on Fire. I know very well how I got my name in Suede Head on Sire Records. Epic Records, George Jones, country singer George Jones on Epic. And this is produced by Billy Sherrill, great country producer. This is from the 70s. And this is one of those records with guests, a million guests. So I'll read them off here. He does Nightlife with Waylon Jennings, Bartender Blues with James Taylor, Here We Are with Emmylou Harris, I've Turned to You to Stone with Linda Ronstadt, It Sure Was Good with Tammy Wynette, I Gotta Get Drunk with Willie Nelson, of course, Proud Mary, Johnny Paycheck. Everyone did Proud Mary in the 70s, right? That was the big song you'd hear every cover bar band do, Proud Mary. Stranger in the House with Elvis Costello. So everything's connected, right? It's like 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. We could do a whole, I got to think of a way to do a 6 degree thing. That would be a challenge, that I pick records whack-a-mole and do 6 degrees to the Beatles. I could do it too, you know I could. But Elvis Costello did a great country album, True Blue, I think it's called, in the 70s. I Still Hold Her with Dennis and Ray from Dr. Hook Medicine Show. And Will the Circle Be Unbroken with Pop and Mavis Staples. Pretty good record. I haven't heard this in years, but I just remember this being a cool record. But George Jones, one of the great country artists of the day. And lastly, The Verve. We're getting into 90s Britpop. Is this 90s? What year was this? You know, I'm thinking early 90s. Come on, someone help me. I'm not going to look it up now. Anyway, this is a reissue. Kind of the period of Oasis and all that. Really good album, Storm in Heaven. Does it say what year it is? Come on. 1993? I was right. I knew it. That's a period of time where I was listening to a lot of music. I was heavily into CDs. My son was born in 1990. My son was born just 3 days after Jeff Kempen's birthday on December 12th, 1990. So I spent a lot of more home time than going out to music and adventurous music. But I would get into certain bands, but not complete artists like I would before and after even. But that's the time when you're home raising your kid. My wonderful son, Joseph. who has been on a Whack-A-Mole previously. Anyway, that's Mazzy's Whack-A-Mole. It's kind of the 1969 edition, even though the records are not from 1969 I pulled, and the whole 69 thing, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Thanks for listening, and Mazzy loves you.